All right.
Okay, we're going to learn the first Farbrengen that the Rabbi gave on Acharon Shel Pesach after the Rabbi became Rabbi. The Rabbi began by saying like this: the previous Rabbi said in one of his talks that the seventh day of Pesach is connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's why we read the words in the Torah. Then Moshe sang, because it's a day connected to Moshe Rabbeinu. This pasuk, then Moshe sang, or more accurately, then Moshe will sing. This pasuk emphasizes the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu. The greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, the way Moshe Rabbeinu's greatness is with his whole essence, because this pasuk talks about the song of Moshe and the Jewish people, and despite the fact that it talks about everyone singing, it says Yashir in the singular. It would have made more sense. It would seem to say they sang in the plural, all of them sang. Why does it say he sang? In order to emphasize how all the Jewish people are connected to the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the greatness of Moshe as a leader of the Jewish people, because what's the greatness of a Jewish leader? The greatness of a Jewish leader is that he's connected and he's close with his sheep, with his flock. And since the day of the 7th of Pesach is a day of Moshe Rabbeinu, where Moshe Rabbeinu is in his full essence, in his deepest self, therefore it includes all the Jewish people. And that's why the song is, then Moshe and the Jewish people will sing, and it says that they will sing in the, or he will sing in the singular, because it's a day where we see the greatness of Moshe. What's the greatest of Moshe? How all the Jewish people are one with him. The last day of Pesach is connected with Mashiach. Speaking of Mashiach, with Meidochem Chaim Peretz. The last day of Pesach is connected to Mashiach, and that's why on the last day of Pesach we read the Haftorah about Mashiach, where it says a star will go off from Yaakov, a shoot will come out from the seed of Jesse, of Yishai. So Moshe and Mashiach have connection to each other. It says in the Talmud, the Moshe Rabbeinu is the first Redeemer, Moshe Rabbeinu is the final Redeemer. The difference between Moshe and Mashiach in their tribes is that Moshe is from the tribe of Levi, and Mashiach is from the tribe of Yehuda. That difference is only externally. But if you go a little deeper beneath the surface, the first Redeemer is the last Redeemer. But there's a unique virtue that Moshe Rabbeinu has and the Mashiach has, which is independent. What's the unique virtue? Never doesn't mention it in at length over here. Just as in short, that there is a manuscript from Shulbe Berisever. He wrote a story about the Tzemach Tzedek. That the Tzemach Tzedek once said a discourse. In a discourse, he said that Moshe is greater than Mashiach. It sounded like Moshe was greater than Mashiach, and he felt bad about it. He felt that Tzemach Tzedek said he's greater, but he felt bad that he said Moshe is greater than Mashiach. He fell asleep. When he fell asleep, the Alter Rebbe came to him in his dream, and he told him that there is a virtue in Moshe and there's a virtue in Mashiach. Moshe Rabbeinu was an experienced practical doctor, and therefore he gave practical mitzvahs. But Mashiach is not a practical doctor, experienced doctor. Rather, Mashiach is going to reveal the inner dimension of the Torah. So maybe I shouldn't have called you Mashiach, because you're more of an experienced practical doctor. Okay, and as a Mashiach is the one who reveals the inner dimension of the Torah. He's not a practical doctor. Like Moshe is one who gives us the prescription of which mitzvah to do. Mashiach will reveal the inner dimension of the Torah. That was the first talk that we gave at that Farbrengen. And after they would give a discourse that would continue and said, the special virtue of the holiday of Passover that surpasses all other holidays is as follows. The physical body is nourished during this holiday from matzah, which is a mitzvah. Although eating on Shabbos and Yom Tov is also a mitzvah. On Shabbos is a mitzvah to enjoy the Shabbos with food and drink. On Yom Tov there's a mitzvah of joy to have food and drink. And the Talmud says there's no joy without meat, no joy without wine. And although this mitzvah of eating meat is only when the Beis Hamikdash was standing, when we had the sacrifices, and now the mitzvah of joy is through wine. I don't know if you know this, but it's a mitzvah every day have wine of all, even today, for the holiday, every day of the Yontif is supposed to have wine. The previous Rebbe had wine with every meal. Every meal he had wine during the holiday. Anyways, so although it seems Shabbos and Yontif we're also nourished by a mitzvah. However, there's a difference between eating on Shabbos and Yontif and eating the matzah on Pesach. What's the difference? When you eat on Shabbos and Yontif, the food itself is not a mitzvah. It's through the food you do a mitzvah, but it's not connected to the actual food specifically. It's not, it's in other words, the food is more like a cause for the mitzvah. The food we eat the food, you're going to, through eating this food, you're going to do the mitzvah of enjoying Shabbos. Through eating this food, you're going to do the mitzvah of the joy of Yontif. But on Pesach, the matzah itself is the mitzvah. It's not just a means to do another mitzvah. The matzah itself is a mitzvah. This is similar to, not exactly the same idea, but it's similar to the idea, the distinction between the mitzvahs that our grandparents did before the Torah was given, and the mitzvahs that were done after the Torah was given. Although our forefathers, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they did mitzvahs with physical objects. However, the Talmud categorizes the mitzvahs they did as having a good fragrance. Why do they call it a fragrance? In other words, no substance to it, just fragrance. Not says after the Torah was given, the mitzvahs are called oil, the oil itself. Before the Torah was given, they did mitzvahs, but they were considered like a good fragrance. Why? Because the mitzvahs they did didn't affect the physical reality. After the Torah was given, now we're able to change the physical reality itself. The physical reality itself, the physical thing with which you do a mitzvah, is purified and elevated until it becomes an actual holy object. So just like the mitzvahs that we do nowadays, they change the substance of the object. So too, the nourishment of our bodies on the holiday is on Pesach is different. All other holidays, you eat cholent, you eat kishke, you eat ashashte, you eat lubia, whatever it is, and through that, Gandhi, don't forget, through that you do a mitzvah. It's not that Gandhi itself is the mitzvah; it's a means. It's not itself a holy thing. However, on Pesach, the type of food that we eat is itself a mitzvah. Hear the difference?
Only the
oh, interesting. Well, it's not the drinking on Yontif is. So let me give an example. The example that we gave was the mitzvahs after Torah was given. They're similar to the holiday. It's not the same thing though, because when you eat on Shabbos, the food itself is hard to tell. No, it's not the drinking itself is not the item of the drink of the wine is not in the same sanctity as the matzah. The matzah itself is a holy food. The wine is a means to get to the joy. You drink the wine to get to the joy. It's not that the wine itself has intrinsic holiness. It's similar to the distinction between the mitzvahs before the Torah was given. It happens to be that even the consumption of food on Shabbos and Yontif is also holy because it's a mitzvah too, and therefore it changes the physical reality. But in the reality after the Torah was given, in this post-Sinai era, there's still a distinction between the consumption of food on Shabbos and Yontif, which is a means to a mitzvah, versus the matzah, which is itself a mitzvah. And wine also is not a mitzvah. It's a means to a mitzvah. It's not itself a holy food. Matzah is a holy food. So our whole holiday, this time, we're being nourished by holy food. What does this mean? Matzah is called the food of faith. Through eating matzah, your emunah, your heart, and your emunah, your neshama gets stronger. There's an example the Gemara gives Chassidus gives from the Gemara. Gemara says that a child cannot call his father, doesn't recognize his father until he has grain. So too, till he eats grain, till each child eats grain. So too, by eating matzah, every single Jew receives a recognition on our Father in heaven, Hashem, which by eating the matzah, it affects us in a similar way that grain affects a baby. The baby eats grain, he recognizes his father. When we eat matzah, it sets our emunah in Hashem. This tells us the great virtue of the matzah. Because just like the child, when he tastes the grain for the first time, although when he ate, while he's eating the grain, he still doesn't call his father yet. When he eats the grain, when he has grain, that he tastes grain for the first time, the Talmud says he knows his father. But when does he actually call his father? If he finishes eating. And even when he does call his father, it's not a real understanding. He doesn't know what a father is and why he's his father. He doesn't know what that means. He doesn't know that the nature of a father is to take care of a child and to sustain him and to give all of his needs. The child doesn't know that all. Doesn't know that this man has a natural mercy, natural achronis on him. And he's going to take care of him and he's going to sustain him. The child doesn't recognize all that. He just knows this is that. So he just knows doesn't know what a dad is and why is it that doesn't know what dads do, but this is that. But in that voice of the child, in that recognition, there is something true that's latent, that's hidden. Within the child's calling of his father, there's something else that's there. In other words, the whole essence of the relationship is in the child saying dad for the first time. The essence is there. And the essence, as it comes as a result, this calling his father as a result of eating the grain, is analogous to us eating the matzah. In the language of Kabbalah and Chassidus, matzah is called katnus abba. Katnus abba means the smaller level of chachma, smaller revelation of chachma. Then there's a gadlus abba, greater revelation of chachma. Abba means father. So I'm not going to get to the whole sphere thing right now, but they're in the matzah, they're in a recognition of Hashem. There is a smaller level of emunah. There's a higher level of the recognition of Hashem. There is the essence of Hashem. So let's talk now about the impact of matzah on our bodies throughout this holiday. When we eat on Shabbos and Yontiv, the food that we eat becomes part of our flesh and blood. But the part of our body, which is coming from the food of Shabbos and Yontiv, is higher than the rest of the body. There's a part of our body on Shabbos and Yontiv which is nourished by the food of Shabbos and Yontiv, and that blood, that flesh, which comes into me through me eating on Shabbos and Yontiv, that's a higher part of me, right? But it's only part of me. It's not my whole being. It can't affect my whole entire body. In other words, although I have a holier part of myself, a Shabbosdika part of myself, and the Shabbosdika food, that can't affect the whole body, but that my whole body shouldn't interfere or hide Hashem's presence. There's only a tiny bit of my body, or a seventh, or whatever, a part of my body is nourished by the Shabbos food. When you eat matzah, matzah doesn't just affect a specific thing. What does matzah affect? What do you say? Matzah gives us emunah, faith in Hashem. Emunah is something that the body cannot disturb, the body cannot hide, the body can't conceal. Emunah is something which is unable to be concealed. Emunah means, what's the essence of emunah? Emunah means truth. Emunah means the emes. It says in the Zohar, truth is faith. What's faith? What's truth? Or a lawyer friend of mine doesn't like the word faith. He says, not faith. He likes the word belief. I don't know which word he likes. Emunah. Emunah means truth. Truth is something that the Gemara says, truth is something which exists in every single level. Truth is not something which is only in some places and sometimes. Truth is in every place and every time. Truth is something which permeates. Where there is truth, there is no place there is no level where truth is not. Truth is something which is always true. So since emunah is called emes, since our belief in Hashem, our truth, our emunah is called truth, it means nothing could hide it. Just like truth is something which exists every place and every time, so our emunah, which is called truth, also has a similar phenomena that nothing can hide it. Understand? So I was just thinking about this morning. I was thinking that the Alter Rebbe's opinion about selling chametz, that the sale is a real sale. Other opinions are that it's just the chametz is getting rid of in different ways, and the sale is just for an extra bonus to be more careful. But I was thinking it's like so characteristic of the Alter Rebbe of Chassidus, of the Chabad opinion about the sale. No, this is real. This is not a joke. This is real. Because what are we getting from Chassidus? We're getting our emunah. Emunah is emes. Emes. Okay, that's just my own conjecture. And let's go further. So Rebbe continues and says like this. It says, this is in the third talk of this Farbrengen. It says that the splitting of the Reed Sea was before dawn, and before that, before the splitting of the Reed Sea, before the splitting of the Reed Sea at dawn. Oh, by the way, one more point I want to mention. In the previous talk, the Rebbe mentioned how Emunah comes from the word ma'amin. Uman. Uman is a craftsman. That's in Tanya that just like a craftsman becomes a craftsman by practicing, so too with Emunah, you have to get used to, you have to condition yourself again and again to believe in Hashem, to see deeper. That's how you get Emunah. Emunah is by looking at the world and conditioning yourself to continuously look deeper, to think deeper, to think that whatever you're seeing is not the reality. The reality is what's behind it. It comes through practice. Okay, so the splitting of the Reed Sea was at dawn, and before that it says there was a cloud, there was darkness, and the light illuminated the night. It sounds like the pasuk is saying, as it says, that the cloud and the darkness themselves illuminated the night. And not only there was a darkness removed, but more, the darkness itself became a light. And that's how the splitting of the Reed Sea happened. What's the splitting of the Reed Sea mean? The Reed Sea is something which covers, so the ocean, the water covers what's beneath it. So the splitting of the Reed Sea means what is concealed is revealed. So the splitting of the Reed Sea means spiritually that Hashem takes away, he splits the concealment, whatever is hiding Hashem's presence. And not only does he remove the concealment of the lowest level of Atzilus, so that at the highest world, Atzilus, should shine into this world, that this world should connect with the highest world, but more, Hashem removes the highest levels of concealment. Hashem even removes the concealment of the first Tzimtzum, which is considered the greatest Tzimtzum. So, in other words, in the splitting of the Reed Sea, Hashem is revealing the light of Hashem that existed before the Tzimtzum, the essence of Hashem. The point is that through the concealment, through the darkness, through the cloud, through the darkness, we reach a higher revelation. The whole point of a concealment is in order that we should reach a greater revelation. So just like even the first Tzimtzum, which the first Tzimtzum was a total removal of Hashem's light, which I really shouldn't say it that way, because Chassidus emphasizes there wasn't meant to be taken literally. It's just a concealment of Hashem's light, but it looked like a total removal of Hashem's light. So the purpose of the Tzimtzum wasn't that a little light should emerge after the Tzimtzum, the Kav. Rather, the purpose of this concealment and removal of light was that all of the light that existed before the Tzimtzum should be returned into the reality post-Tzimtzum, into the physical reality, into the world. And more, not just the light should return, but there should even be a greater light that could never be revealed even before the Tzimtzum. And only through the Tzimtzum can there be a new light of Hashem that should be revealed. That's the intent of the darkness. Only through the darkness can you get there. And just like this is true for the redemption from Egypt, that it was only through the darkness, through the cloud, that there was such light, that the darkness and the cloud itself illuminated the night, that only through the Tzimtzum, only through the concealment can there be a revelation. So too is this true regarding revelations of the future of Mashiach. As it says in the Torah, that just like I took you out of Egypt, just like then I showed you wonders, so too will I show you wonders today. It says that revelation of the coming Mashiach will happen through our efforts, through our Aved. Our service of Hashem, now in the exile, we're serving Hashem in a circumstance of concealment, of darkness. And nevertheless, despite that, we're not affected by the concealment. On the contrary, we use the concealment itself to add a strength in our service of Hashem. For example, look at this. What's the difference between the departure from Egypt and the coming of Mashiach? It says when we left Egypt, we had to run away. Why do you have to run away? Because a part of us wanted to stay. So there was a friction. When we left Egypt, a part of us like, this is great, Egypt is wonderful, let's stay here. So in other words, there was some evil inside of us. And therefore, our departure from Egypt is called running away. The body wasn't elevated yet. The body was low. And so we have to run away from the way the body was. When Mashiach will come, it says we won't run away. Even though Mashiach will happen instantaneously, it says we won't run. Why? Because since the body will be perfected, so the body itself will shine. When Mashiach will come, it says we're going to see godliness clearly, just like we could see with our body only. We see things in a very vivid way. Our neshama's mind it doesn't have the same vivid vision as our eyes do. Our eyes could see in a very vivid way. Nowadays, that continues, we don't know, and we can't imagine in our mind the idea of seeing the essence of godliness. We can't imagine what that means, seeing the essence of godliness. The only thing we can see the essence of today is the essence of physical things. And the truth is, when we say the essence, we only see the mitzias hamahus, not the mahus hamahus. When we look at the physical reality, we don't see the essence of the physical things. We see the essence of mitzias hamahus. We see the external part of the physical reality. We see the essence of the most external part of the physical reality. We don't see the essence of the physical reality. What's the essence of the physical reality? It's its soul. We could see the full substance of its external trappings, but we can't see the essence of the physical reality. We can't see its soul. All we could have in the essence of the physical reality, the only connection we can have to that is understanding, but not seeing. When Mashiach will come, what's going to happen is we're going to see the essence of godliness with our physical eyes. So there's going to be two things that'll be novel. Number one is we're going to see the essence of godliness. Number two, with our physical eyes, we'll see the essence of godliness. And the way this is accomplished is specifically through our body. The neshama is more in the realm of understanding, of feeling, of looking with the mind's eye, but seeing vividly is something that the body can do. And through the refinement of the body, we're able to cause, the Mashiach will come, a physical vision, a vivid vision in the essence of godliness. Then the Rebbe continues and talks about the passing of the previous Rebbe. The passing of the previous Rebbe is the greatest concealment. It's a much greater concealment than our own body gives us. The fact that the previous Rebbe passed away, the stalkus, is a much greater concealment. As it says in the Gemara, the passing of a tzaddik to Hashem is harder than the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So it's a greatest concealment. But through this concealment, we reach a much greater level. The Rebbe doesn't speak at length over here about this idea. I just want to mention, ever since another occasion, we discussed this before, just very briefly. The Rebbe asked, how is it possible that we're going to make the world a home for Hashem? The world, by its very nature, by the name of the world, the word world is oilam. Oilam means concealment. If oilam means concealment, so it can't become a home for Hashem naturally. It's going against the grain of the very fiber of what the world is. The world is concealment. It's not. So how can it be the world itself comes home for Hashem? We're not talking about Hashem breaking the world. We're talking the world itself coming home for Hashem. So Rebbe said that Hashem imbued in the world something, a mechanism, where darkness creates more light. How so? So just like, for example, this is an example of putting your toe into hot water. It's easier to put your toe into hot water than it is to put your head in hot water. Why? Because your toe is less sensitive. Since your toe is less sensitive, your desire is more prominent. Your willpower, is more dominant in your less sensitive organs. In your toe, your willpower is stronger. Therefore, it's easier to push your toe into hot water than your head. In a similar way, our generation is more like a toe generation compared to previous generations. We're at a lower level. Since we're in a lower level, so we see more of revelation of the essence of the neshama. In the previous generations, they had greater minds, greater hearts, so they didn't see so much they didn't need to use the essence of the neshama. They love mitzvahs, they love Torah. Of course, we're giving more of this stuff. But when there's a darkness, when there's a confusion, why are you doing it still? Where's it coming from? It comes from a greater power, greater strength in the neshama, greater devotion. It comes from the essence of the neshama. So the darkness itself summons a greater light. That's why Mashiach comes. We could say the world itself come home for Hashem, because the world was built in a way that the darkness, the world was created in a way that it summons more light. That the world was created in a way that darkness creates more light. It's part of the fabric of the world. So, continuing on what Rebbe is saying over here, it talks about the passing the previous Rebbe. Passing the previous Rebbe, the Gemara says it's the passing of the Tzaddik is worse than the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. But through this, we reach a much greater light. The word is stalik, which means to pass away, also, as the Zohar says, means a great revelation. Istalik, which means passing, means the greatest revelation of Hashem. That means it's precisely through the passing of the previous Rebbe that there is a much greater revelation. So the truth is that as much as the light can be greater, as great as the light may be, we're not happy, we're not satisfied with just revelations of Hashem. The Jewish people didn't suffer in Golus just to get the light of Hashem. That's not why the passing of the previous Rebbe happened. Worse than Beis Hamikdash being destroyed. That's not why it happened. Rather, the Jewish people want, and especially Hasidim want, they should be the revelation of Hashem's essence. And this will happen speedily in our days when the Rebbe will lead us to greet Mashiach Tzidkein. So that's the meaning of the pasuk says there was a cloud and there was darkness and it illuminated the night. What illuminated the night? The darkness itself. So similarly, they were saying that we should realize that something's going on over here. If you see that there's a confusion in the world, you know what it's meant for. It's meant for to reveal not just a greater light, but the real essence of Hashem.
Which version?